Todd, what about you? Are you on board with a deal that pays an AAV for Kyle Tucker equivalent to Juan Soto?
Look, I think it's higher than what most people would have expected to pay for Kyle Tucker. Having said that, it is David Stern's, desire to keep the contracts at a length that he can control them. He doesn't want guys going 6-7 year contracts. He doesn't want to be able to have to deal with that. He's already got Soto locked up for so long. And the reason it kind of makes sense is what both Will and Anthony were saying is this guy's an elite offensive player. He also has a very good plate discipline, 865 career OPS. And the fact that he is a guy that you can count on offensively, and he's a little better defensively than Juan Soto, even though I don't think he's elite defensively. I think that brings his value to a place where you can justify trying to win right now in the short term and paying him maybe a little bit more than you would pay him over the course of a long term on the AAV side, but getting bang for your buck during his prime.
Yeah, you talk about some of the numbers, and we mentioned it here. He's got the 865 lifetime OPS. Take it a little bit deeper, Todd. When you look at him up at the plate, what makes him such an elite offensive player?
Well, both the other guys mentioned it too, but it's his ability not only to have offensive productivity. I mean, the guy can hit home runs, he can drive in runs, but he's also a guy that gets on base. He's got great plate discipline. It's something that maybe you didn't see quite as much of with a guy like Pete Alonso hitting behind Juan Soto, even though Pete was definitely more of a home run threat every time he walked up there. You look at these numbers across, and that's the 100 homers, the 100 plus, stolen bases, so he can get on base. He can give you some extra, offense with his legs on base, and the strikeout rate down. And so I think those things make him a guy that is going to be not only a guy that could potentially be a feast or famine, drive in big runs, hit some home runs, but he's also going to be a guy that continues to set the table for this lineup and makes it really challenging for opposing pitchers to continue to navigate. I would say the only downside for me in this is that he's not right-handed in the sense of this lineup. This lineup is going to be a little short-handed from the right-handed power and right-handed productivity standpoint, especially when you consider Lindor, on the left side most of the time. Beatty, who's a guy that's going to be at third base on the left-hand side most of the time. So they're going to be needing some right-handed power. But aside from that, I think this guy's a good fit.
Yeah, Mark Vientos, somebody from the right side who could prove to be, listen, he could be put in a trade, we'll see, but he's somebody from the right side who could be a factor here for the Mets this year. I wonder about this. This is a guy we're talking about here in Kyle Tucker, $50 million a season. Will, is he a $50 million a season player?
That's a lot of money, right? That is. But I don't think that this contradicts anything that the Mets have been doing so far this offseason, because at the beginning of this, we always said that they would be on the periphery for a star player, right? Like, it just had to match the market to what the Mets wanted it to be, which would be a short-term thing. Remains to be seen if it does match up and line up that way. He has to pick this, right? He has to pick them for it to work. But for me, it doesn't contradict it, because you're looking at a short-term thing for somebody who is an elite player. And people will ask, well, they're paying this much for that guy. Why didn't they go and get player X or player Y? They're not Kyle Tucker. They're not as good as Kyle Tucker. Kyle Tucker is an elite offensive player. And like Todd said, it may not match up perfectly where, like, his defense maybe doesn't align with, like, the run prevention thing and he's bats from the left side. I don't care about any of that. This is one of the best offensive players in baseball. And to slide him in, last I checked, they need an outfielder. They need somebody behind Juan Soto. Kyle Tucker's available. Go get him. That's where I'm sitting on it, because also we're talking about a corner outfielder. We're not talking about a shortstop. Right. We're not talking about up the middle defense. We're talking about a corner outfielder who isn't some slouch. I mean, he may be even below average, but he's not terrible in the field. He's passable. You could work with him, and the trade-off is worth it because it's Kyle Tucker.
Yeah, look, I love the player, guys.
I do, too.
So
I want him in a Mets uniform.
With what I'm about to say, I don't want to make it seem like I don't want him to be on the Mets, but it does feel, and you alluded to it, Will, like, it feels like it doesn't really, like, mesh in the way that the sort of offseason has been laid out, at least publicly, by David Stearns in terms of run prevention is paramount. And, look, Kyle Tucker is, he's got a Gold Glove on his resume. He's been a finalist a couple of other times. He's dominated some metrics in the past as well, but he's also backslid recently on some of those same numbers. numbers. And so you're right, Will. It's a corner outfield position. He's not going to be playing center field for them. But there's just a weird feel about the $50 million player, left-handed hitting right fielder, when they already have a $50 million left-handed hitting right fielder, and now they're going to jam one of them into left field. At the end of the day, I lean more toward what you're saying, Will, that it is a corner outfielder you can get by, because the lineup, Gary, really needs this kind of Kyle Tucker level help, and he can bring it.
I hear what you're saying, that maybe it doesn't perfectly fit, but they had the pieces that seemed to fit pretty well last year. They won 83 games. They need to do something, and we'll see how this plays out here with Kyle Tucker.